Hi, my name is Nicole Daniels. Today's health promotion is on diabetes prevention, and the population at risk that is being targeted today are adult clients over the age of 45. Before we get started, in the links below, you should see a link for a post and pre-test that can be taken to check your knowledge. Before we begin, go ahead and pause, take the test, and see what your current knowledge is. After the test is completed, we'll go through the presentation, and then at the end, retake the test and see what information you gained after today. The objectives for today are to define prediabetes and type 2 diabetes mellitus, to discuss the risk factors that contribute to a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, to review lifestyle modifications that can be made to prevent type 2 diabetes, to describe the associated risks a person might have who was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and finally, to provide resources for further education and also prevention measures. So to start with, let's define what is prediabetes. Per the CDC, a person can be diagnosed with prediabetes when their blood sugar levels are higher than normal, but not yet high enough to be considered diabetic. Of those that are living with diabetes, up to 84% do not know that they have diabetes. Why don't they know? Well, oftentimes there are no indicators or symptoms associated with prediabetes or even diabetes until somebody might start to exhibit complications of the disease later on. So why is prevention key? Well, there are easy things that anybody can do at home to prevent prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is a precursor. So that means that if we catch it early, we make changes, that we can prevent diabetes from occurring later, which is important because as Wong et al. Found in a study in 2018, 5 to 10% of those that are living with prediabetes become diabetic annually. So early identification and intervention and making those changes are necessary to prevent that type 2 diabetes diagnosis. And then, of course, the associated lifetime risks that could occur down the road as a result. So type 2 diabetes, what's actually happening during type 2 diabetes? This is a disease in which the cells within our pancreas is a little organ that we have that's connected with our stomach. In that area, we start to have difficulty responding to the insulin that it produces. Insulin is created inside the pancreas, and it's used to let blood sugar into our body's cells, and that blood sugar is then used to create energy for our body. What's happening in type 2 diabetes is there's an overproduction, too much insulin, because it's not detecting the insulin that the pancreas is making. So then that means that we have too much blood sugar. So as years go by and this continues, it can cause serious complications, serious health problems to the other organs within our body. Estimated that 34 million Americans, which is the equivalent to 1 in 10, have a diagnosis of diabetes. And of those living with diabetes, 90 to 95% are living with type 2 diabetes. And what we've discussed earlier shows type 2 diabetes is preventable. So a person can go multiple years without even knowing that they have type 2 or prediabetes. Because like I said, there might not be any associated symptoms. So those at risk should be screened by their primary physicians and make lifestyle modifications to prevent a diagnosis later on. So how do you know if you're at risk? If you're overweight, you're 45 years of age or older, you have a family history of type 2 diabetes. Are you exercising regularly? If you're not exercising regularly or you're inactive for more than 3 times a week, that could be a risk factor as well. Is there a history of gestational diabetes? Did you have diabetes while you were pregnant? And then ethnicity can play a factor as well. African Americans, Latinos, American Indians, Pacific Islanders all have a higher risk. Now, CDC does provide a prediabetes risk test, which can be helpful to determine if maybe you might be at risk. So, something to check out. And the link is provided at the end of this program. So, prevention is key. Losing weight is one of the best things that we can do. So, shedding at least 5% of your body weight is what is indicated for prevention measure. Making a nutrition plan, and that should include non-starchy vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, whole grains, water, and unsweetened teas. You want to avoid things like trans fats, alcohol, sugar, sugary beverages, and processed foods. Get active. You want to increase your exercise. That could include like simple things such as just taking walks for 30 minutes per day. And track your progress. That helps you to know whether you're on track or not. And you can do this by making a nutrition diary and keeping a fitness log. And then finally, to quit smoking. Some of those complications we referred to in the beginning of diabetes include things like skin infections or wounds, glaucoma, and cataracts, neuropathy or nerve damage, particularly to the feet, diabetic ketoacidosis, which is when we have ketones in the urine, and that can be problematic in itself, and then which can also lead further to kidney disease, high blood pressure, and finally, another serious complication would be stroke. Some of the available resources are listed below. Like I mentioned, you can go on the CDC website to take a prediabetes risk test to determine if you're at risk. Also, the CDC has a really good guide called On Your Way to Preventing Type 2 Diabetes, which goes in depth about some of the nutritional changes that you should make. The American Diabetes Association is a great resource with educational materials. You can take Living Well with Diabetes classes for those with diabetes, but also pre-diabetes, and those are provided at the local health department, as well as there's a diabetes prevention program currently going on. It's a 16-week session followed by monthly meetings, and these are being held virtually due to COVID-19 to help set health goals for nutrition and exercise. Health department also provides one-on-one nutrition consultation, which will help you get your nutrition goals in line with a nutritionist slash dietitian. And then also there's some great apps for tracking of nutrition, blood sugar, and A1C levels, such as Glucose Buddy, that can be helpful. Technology right now can be extremely helpful and necessary due to COVID-19. So, in a study that I reviewed from Wong et al. In 2018, found that technology can be beneficial for tracking education, support, lifestyle modification reminders, especially for those that have a hard time having access to healthcare providers in the office or attending meetings at the health department. So this is definitely something to maybe look into. You can get it right on your smartphone or on a tablet. Telemedicine visits with physicians, as well as virtual classes offered at the health department, are very good preventive methods during COVID-19 in particular. So please check it out. All right, so that concludes today's session.